what does MEDDIC stand for and why do we use MEDDIC? Well, what is MEDDIC about? It's a sales methodology which is basically qualification, but ultimately it's about control. It's not so much a qualification checklist to make sure you use this as a form of control to control and mitigate risk throughout the deal cycle. So M stands for metrics. What does it actually mean though? Quantifiable business impact. Okay. So what it means is if your solution works, what measurably improves? Is it revenue? Is it cost savings? Is it time saved? Risk reduced? No, time saved on its own doesn't really relate to any real metrics until you link that time saved to a specific number, right? What is it in lost revenue, or how much time will you be saving? And as a result, what does that mean from a business standpoint and a cost standpoint? You need to relate it to an actual tangible number. What great looks like: clear before and after numbers the customer agrees with. Exactly that. How to uncover it in discovery. Ask questions like, what happens if this problem is solved successfully? How is this measured internally today? What would a 10 to 20% improvement mean to the business from a monetary standpoint? Yeah. Who cares most about this number? Now, once we've run through MEDDIC here, the actual framework, I'm going to give you a live example of one of the deals that I ran not long ago, and that outlines why metrics can actually trigger the rest of your framework, and it can set the foundations to basically tick the boxes off for the rest of this framework. E, economic buyer. What does that mean? The person who can say yes to spend. Yeah, exactly what it says on the tin. Who is the economic buyer? This is the individual who owns a budget and signs the deal. What does great look like? Direct access or a clear path to them. Now, we might not always have this, and we will cover this later on. What do we do if we don't have direct access to the end decision maker or buyer? How to uncover it in discovery. How are purchases like this typically approved? Who owns budget for this initiative? If we get this right, who ultimately signs it off? Right, straight up. What does success look like for them personally? They're the ones signing on the dotted line. They're the ones who have the budget, and they're the ones who are actually given the green light on the business spending on this. So they're going to have some needs and wants. Find out what they are and find out what their version of success looks like for this. They're not just there just signing and then just not thinking about it, right? Everything they sign is deliberate. Make sure you find out what's important to them. All right. D, decision criteria. This is the first D. What does it stand for? How the buyer will choose a vendor. All right. What does that mean? So the standards your solution will be judged against, whether it be price, features, risk, vendor trust, ROI. What does great look like? You know the criteria before a decision is made, and then you can influence it. Yeah. How to uncover it in discovery. What will you evaluate vendors on? What matters most versus nice to have? Exactly what's essential in the business? What's the most important thing? What's your priority right now? How will you justify this decision internally? And what would disqualify a vendor? Really, really key question to ask. Now, the second D, decision process. The steps, edit. The steps to a signed deal. What does it mean? The internal journey from interest to approval. That will be meetings. There will be reviews. Are there legal and procurement teams that need to get involved? If so, how long is their process? You can run legal and procurement side by side. Okay, so if you know it's typically a 2-week turnaround to get red lines back, fit that into your timeline. Yeah, for your deal cycle, you're working towards a close date. So manage it effectively. If you know it takes 2 weeks and procurement and legal can run side by side, hey, Mr. Champion, this sounds like it's great. Whilst we're building out a business case, would it be a good idea to get this in front of legal and procurement now so we can actually make sure that we can adhere to the timelines we've got in place in our mutual action plan? What great looks like? No surprises between now and close. No, John in finance needs to get involved. Actually, he's got the final say. Hold on. I thought we went through the decision process, right? No surprises between now and close. Walk me through how a decision like this gets made. Yep. What steps happen after this particular call? Who needs to be involved and when? Do we need to loop in your direct line manager now? What could slow this down? By the way, guys, if you've got more questions to add on these, drop them in the comments. These are just 4 I've put together, right? There's many, many more we could be asking. If you've got any ideas, or you use different questions, or you don't like any of these, drop me a line in the comments. I'll respond to each and every single one. I identify pain, what it stands for. This is the business problem that's worth fixing. Real costly pain, not just surface level inconvenience. Surface level inconvenience with no tangible metrics will not get signed off. It will result in a closed lost. You can bank on that. What does great look like? Pain that is tied to metrics, urgency, and ownership. Boom. That's exactly the nirvana. That's the promised land. That's where you want to get to. How to uncover it in discovery. What's driving you to look at this now? What happens if nothing changes? Where does this show up day to day? Who feels the pain the most? Notice what's driving you to look at this now. Yeah, that's the why. Why now? Why is this important? Why are we having this conversation? Say, okay, yeah, great. I need X, Y, and Z. All right, I understand you need X, Y, and Z, but why now? What's happened in the business that makes this a priority for you right now? Yeah, why now? And then C, champion. An internal seller on your behalf. Someone with influence and motivation who will push your solution forward when you're not in the room. Sometimes you won't have direct access to the economic buyer. Sometimes you won't have direct access to the final ultimate decision maker, depending on the size of business you're looking at. What great looks like, they win personally if your solution wins. Exactly. Because if they win personally, you bet your life they're going to push it internally. But how do they push it internally properly? Who benefits most from this being solved? Who would be disappointed if this didn't happen? How have you championed projects like this before? What's worked previously before? Have you brought any successful tools onto the business or into the business before on board? Would you be open to aligning on how to position this internally? What is this last question asking? It's asking, if you're open to it, I'm going to work on a business case with you to present internally. And we're going to have a solid business case with clear ROI. That business case is super important. Because when you're not in the room, if your champion just goes, hey, I just had a great meeting with Neil. He's found a tool. He's got a tool that will really help us out right now. And it cost £50,000, your deal's dead. Dead in the water. Because what do they hear? They hear something that says 50K. And it doesn't even know what it solves. And it hasn't even got clear ROI. You need clear ROI and you need clear metrics. For example, when the champion goes in, I've had a really, really good meeting with Neil. They've got this tool that solves X, Y, and Z for us. And actually, here's a business case we've put together that maps out exactly how, if we come in at this price point in terms of investment, here is what we will be saving over the next month, over the next quarter, over the next year. That is when decision makers internally and influencers and stakeholders' ears perk up. Without that, dead in the water. Now, let me give you an example of a deal I ran not long ago, okay? We went outbound, right? So when we're doing MEDDIC, implementing MEDDIC, I said to you, the metrics is super important, because if you can get those right, then you've got the economic buyer interested. The ROI becomes the number one metric for decision criteria, and then you figure out the decision process. It is the starting point that knocks everything else into place. You nail the metrics, you stand a good chance of controlling that deal and implementing the rest of the framework. So we're speaking to a business. Yeah, looks good. Just curious, seeing what's out there. All right, no worries. Have you guys got an outbound motion? Yes, we do. All right, great. How are they currently finding X, Y, and Z? In this case, it was contact data. Well, they scrape the internet. You know how it is. No, I don't know how it is. Tell me how it is. Well, they go on businesses, websites. Okay, cool. Sounds a bit time consuming. Where else? They go on LinkedIn. Okay, sorry, forgive me. LinkedIn, the same place where I go where there is zero contact info. What are they finding on LinkedIn that I'm not? There's no contact data. There's no email addresses. There's no phone numbers. What are they doing on LinkedIn? Well, they go through the profiles and they'll connect to them and then they'll look to their contact info. Okay, cool. How much time are they spending on average per day scraping the internet for contact data to reach out to people? No, a couple of hours. Okay. So a quarter of their day is spent researching and trying to find contact data. What would you want them have? What would you have them do if we could give you those 2 hours a day back? Oh, get on the phone and book meetings. Great. How many meetings are they booking per week? 20 meetings a week. Excellent. So if we can give you that time back, they should, in theory, book a quarter more in terms of meetings. So your meetings go from 20 meetings to 25 meetings booked per week. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Okay. Just out of interest, what's your conversion rate on meetings sat to closed one? 1 in 4 nil typically. Yeah, we work at about 25% close rate. It's very high, very healthy. Okay, sounds good. So you're closing 1 in 4. So on any given week, you're closing 5 deals, right? Which is, what's an average deal worth to you guys? 18 to 20K, 18 to 20. Okay, cool. So in any given week, in terms of new business, you're closing anywhere between 90 to 100K worth of new business. Is that correct? Yes, it is. All right. So if we're going from 20 meetings, which is 5 deals closed and 90 to 100K closed per week, to 25 meetings booked per week, you've now gone from 5 deals closed to just over 6. So now instead of closing 90 to 100K, we're closing 120 to 125K per week. You're leaving 20 to 25 grand a week on the table just by having your reps wasting time scraping the internet when we've got ready-made contact data right there for them. Just to put that into context, per month, it's costing the business around 100K, which spread out over the course of the year is now costing you 1.2 million. Do you see where I'm going with this, John? Or when you put it like that, Neil? Those are clear, tangible metrics. That now shifts the conversation, guys, from do we like this tool to, geez, how quickly can we stop this revenue leak? Now, if I don't get those metrics and I go and say, oh, John, hey, look, it's 54K to sign up for the year, I may be able to do something to get it closer to 50K. How's he going to pitch this internally if we haven't got the metrics of what revenue they're losing? They are leaking revenue. And that all came from me finding out how much time per day was wasted trying to find contact data on the internet, scraping the net, and on LinkedIn, where everyone knows there's no data. There's no contact data anyway. So time saved, I could have stopped. Now, what happens if I stop at time saved? I'll give you 2 hours a day back. Great. How would you want them to utilize it? Well, they'll get on the phone, they'll start doing the job that they're doing. But if I don't tie it to what that means for the business by asking them, look, how many meetings do you book per week? 20. Okay. Well, if you have that time back, then they'll book more meetings, and it actually works out directly. If they're doing 2 out of 8 hours a day researching, we give them those 2 hours back, your meetings will increase from 20 to 25, right? What will that mean for the business? Well, how many do you convert? 1 in 4. Great. So now you're going to convert 1 in 4 out of 25 rather than 20. What's an average deal worth to you? 18 to 20K. Well, that's an extra deal a week, every week. Across a month, it's what? An extra 100 grand, an extra 90 to 100 grand a month to the business. If I don't tie the time saved, then all it is, hey, yeah, the guys will have a couple of extra hours back in their day. Well, if you're an economic buyer or Jim in finance, you're thinking, well, I've got to pay 50 grand for them to have a little bit more time. Like, you need to link it to tangible revenue or cost to the business, because without that, time saved really doesn't mean anything. It just looks like a cost. It looks like an expense, 50K. I think we can just continue as we are, no? You need to get clear ROI metrics and need to paint clear pictures in terms of how much money revenue is being lost in the business from that one tiny bit of information you find out. Dig in deep, ask those questions, go down those funnels. Guys, if you enjoyed that, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you want to see the full podcast, click right here.